Overwatch fans have been waiting for months and playing pointless ARG after pointless ARG to find out what the deal is with the game's newest hero, Sombra. And until this week, they've been pretty disappointed with the drip feed of non-information from Blizzard. But with the start of BlizzCon last weekend, Blizzard went and revealed everything about the character all at once, releasing a motion comic trailer along with a full-scale CGI short about her and allowing lots of different gamers to play on their YouTube channels and see what her gameplay is all about. Which is a lot for one character and one weekend, and makes me think that these things were intended to be released over time through the ARGs. I'd wager that production hiccups and maybe unforeseen game balancing challenges delayed these trailers and announcements, but that's not what we're here to talk about, at least not entirely. We're here to see what additional information about Sombra and Overwatch's world in general we can glean from these trailers. We'll start with the motion comic about Sombra's origins, since it'll be relatively fast. The artwork in it is beautiful, and there are some cute Easter eggs like Sombra having what looks like off-brand Mountain Dew and Doritos on her desk in reference to Gremlin Diva, but there's not a lot to find here that wasn't part of the ARG, and I'm not about to dive into that quagmire. The one really interesting thing to me in this trailer is the wall of connections that Sombra has compiled together through her hacking. This chart seems to indicate that a single organization has control over the entire world, and that they're using various other groups to achieve their ends. Starting on the left, the Lumerico Corporation appears to be part of this conspiracy, and it looks like the Los Muertos gang members that they're publicly opposed to actually work for them. Also, we can see that the CEO of Volskaya Industries is working with an Omnic leader from a yet unidentified third group, which connects to the plot of the Infiltration short. But that's something for the deep lore hounds to dig into. I'm more interested in the future heroes that this map may be hinting at. The Omnic group also has some sort of connection to Doomfist, possibly related to the technology in their spider tank thing, and Doomfist also happens to be connected to Talon. This could be a reference to Talon trying to steal the gauntlet in the first Overwatch short, but it could also mean that the new person to take up the gauntlet ends up working for the terrorists. But there's a more concerning connection here. Both Talon and Overwatch appear to be puppets of whoever or whatever is pulling the strings from behind the scenes, which is as good an explanation as any for why Reaper can be on a team with Tracer, and has some cool implications for the story of the game going forward. I just hope that they don't totally rip off the Hydra plot in the MCU. Circled around the Overwatch hex, you can see many of the game's heroes, but there are also a few anonymous silhouettes, and I expect that those could be as yet unrevealed playable characters. After all, they have to be at least somewhat important to end up on this chart, and who could be more important than a playable hero? One of them is close to Widowmaker and also connected to Ana in some way. Perhaps the husband who Widowmaker supposedly killed isn't as dead as everyone believed. Another silhouette has the same connection to Ana as Pharah does, so maybe Pharah has a brother, or one of Ana's former subordinates might still be a major player. Branching off from Genji, we can see the Shimada clan symbol with Hanzo next to it, along with another silhouette which could indicate another ninja or samurai is coming in a future patch. Certainly there's still more that Blizzard could do with that theme. The last silhouette is connected to the Los Muertos street gang, those dudes with the cool glowing skeleton tattoos, and I could certainly see a new hero coming out of there. It's clear that a non-trivial amount of work on Blizzard's part has gone into creating the aesthetic look of this gang, and they've shown up in 2 shorts now. Someone on the Overwatch team clearly likes them. There's also this Omnic who's connected to Reinhardt in some way. It's hard to tell at this distance, but it doesn't quite look like Zenyatta or any of the other Omnics we've met so far. It could be a supporting character, but for how important Omnics are to Overwatch's story, there aren't a lot of playable ones. I think we're almost due for another, and this Omnic does kind of resemble the Omnic that we've seen in previous trailers standing in with the rest of the Overwatch group. All that said, none of this tells us much about how these characters might play, but since when has a lack of information ever stopped nerds from speculating? The animated short Infiltration gives us a lot more to speculate on, both in regards to Sombra's character motivations and her gameplay. Now, of course, Blizzard Blizzard has already revealed Sombra's finalized ability list, but that was reached after months of testing, and this short has probably been in production for almost as long as they've been working on her. In fact, by looking at the Infiltration short, I think we can get a solid idea of how pre-release Sombra might have played. But before we dig into that, let's take a look at the narrative setup of the short, because I think it does a few things right. The first shot does a very efficient job of conveying to us Sombra's skill set, as well as her personality in just a few short seconds. Right off the bat, we can see that she can turn invisible, and that she's a skilled hacker. So skilled that hacking into the most advanced security in the world is literally child's play to her. Her flippant, casual attitude marks her as young and more than a little arrogant, and that's just the visuals. This shot also does something to grab our attention with the audio right off the bat. Well, at least for those of us who care about Overwatch's story, which is admittedly not everyone who plays the game. After Sombra speaks, a voice comes in on the radio that you might not be expecting to hear.
We don't have all day. Hurry up.
Enough. Do you have satellite?
Widowmaker, followed shortly by Reaper. This means that Sombra is in league with Talon, the game's villains, which, to me at least, came as a bit of a surprise. Up to this point, nothing substantial had really been revealed about Sombra. People had no idea who she was or even who she was aligned with. Reaper did make one obscure reference to her in-game on the Dorado map, but the other parts of the game teasing her identity made her come across as more playful and mischievous than the murderous Talon agents. And yet, one of the first things we learn as soon as the short starts is that she's working for Talon, which throws the audience off for a few reasons. Firstly, because it seems a little too easy to just find all of this out about the mysterious character up front, and secondly, because of the expectations that have been set by previous shorts. This is the second time we've seen a story told from the perspective of a Talon agent after Alive, but that story makes it clear from the start that it's just as focused on Tracer as it is on Widowmaker. There's a hero you can pull for to stop the villain, but as Infiltration moves forward, it becomes clear that no heroes are coming to balance things out and save the day. And given the dark conclusion to Widowmaker's last assassination attempt, as well as its long-reaching consequences for the world at large, that increases the tension of the short dramatically, while also leaving us feeling like something's out of whack. And we can only really make sense of that feeling once Sombra gets Miss Volskaya alone in a room and reveals that she's not really with Talon, she's just using them to her own ends. It turns out that there was a hero working to save the day after all, albeit a self-motivated anti-hero who kills a lot of guards on her way in. And the short finally aligns itself with an expected narrative structure. This is a subtle way of making us not trust what we're seeing and feel like there's more going on than meets the eye, which helps to put us in the mindset of the hacker on steroids who we're focusing on. We feel like there's gotta be something else going on behind the scenes, and it's a little bit rewarding when we're proven right. Neat little narrative tricks like that aside, this isn't a perfect short by any stretch of the imagination. The dialogue is pretty cheesy and basic, but we've come to expect that of Overwatch by now. And while the animation is strong as always, it's maybe a bit too poppy and cartoony for the darker tone of the short. The camera work and editing is sloppy too. There are attempts at gag comedy, like when this guy running away from Reaper knocks himself out on a mech, or when these two mooks are faked out by Sombra's teleporter before being shot, but the cuts are just too fast to give these jokes a timely setup or payoff, and the camera work does nothing to draw your attention to them. Also, this slow motion bird's eye shot when Sombra leaps over to the catwalk is totally unnecessary and undercuts the urgency of the chase scene. I hear all the time from WoW fans how great Blizzard's cutscenes are, but if Overwatch is any indication, I think they might be a little too dazzled by how pretty the CGI is. They have good moments, and the reveal trailer was certainly strong, but the filmmaking here is kinda weak. Valve did it a lot better for TF2. The one thing that this short does do really well is emphasize the abilities of each character. You probably already know how Widowmaker plays, but even if you don't, you can get a sense for the possibilities of her grapple mechanic, as well as how her sniping gameplay works, all from just a few short cuts. And the same goes for Reaper. You can tell that he's lead-footed and good at blowing people away, but you can also see how his Wraith Form and Teleport abilities could be used to get the drop on enemies. And with Sombra, her ability to turn invisible is used multiple times in quick succession to get out of trouble and surprise enemies, which both tells us how versatile it is and hints that it activates on a shorter cooldown than most abilities. They make a point of showing her mowing down lots of enemies with her SMG without reloading. She's an assault hero after all, even though she looks a bit like a support, and her ability to take out enemies and lay down sustained fire is an important part of how she plays. And while that gag with the teleporter doesn't really work as a straight gag, it does make the teleporter stick in your mind, especially with this last lingering shot of it booting up. So when Sombra finally uses it to get out of Volskaya's office, we can understand what's going on, as well as the fact that we're supposed to use this thing as a get out of jail free card, not unlike Tracer's rewind ability. But some parts of Sombra's skill set are noticeably missing here. Her opportunist vision that lets her see injured enemies through walls is nowhere to be seen, and we don't see her hacking enemies or resources at all. The hacking that she does do is entirely related to environmental objects, and she mostly uses it to facilitate faster movement through the environment, sending elevators up rapidly and using robot arms to fling herself around. In relation to that, we also see her climbing up a lot of walls as she scrambles through the environment, not unlike Genji or Hanzo. If I had to take a guess, I'd say that Sombra's movement mechanics were probably a little different back during development than what we see now. It looks like those prominent claw-like nails on her hands were probably used to help her climb, and I'd wager that they also had the passive ability to activate certain scripted objects in the environment by touching them. If this is the case, then Sombra probably navigated maps a lot like the Shimada brothers, only with certain hackable shortcuts that were exclusively available to her. And judging from how it serves as the centerpiece of the short's finale, I suspect that her teleporter may have originally been her ultimate. But as she was developed, Blizzard clearly realized that throwing the teleporter to get around was both a lot simpler to understand and a lot more fun to use. So they turned it into a more frequently available ability with a time limit. And Sombra's hacking was changed from a traversal mechanic to something more useful for enemy harassment and area denial. Again, this is pure speculation. It could just be that Sombra acts as she does in the short because it looks cool. But if I am right, drastic gameplay changes like what I'm suggesting could explain the long delay in her announcement and the unsatisfying results of her ARG campaign. But that's just a theory. Wait, that's not my thing. My thing is shilling. If you're watching this, you're probably a fan of video games, and I'd wager that you may have played an indie game or two in your time. Indie games are great. They're a hotbed of new ideas and innovation, but the unfortunate thing about them, at least if you're a huge collector like I clearly am, is that they very rarely get physical releases. Indie Box aims to change that. And these special editions are really nice. The copy of Galaxy that I bought at PAX came with figurines of the ship and giant robot from the game, a neat little poster, and the game's soundtrack on an honest-to-God cassette tape, and digital copies of the game and soundtrack on this nice little rubber thumb drive that's shaped like one of the enemy ships from the game. It's a nice little collectible piece, and if you're a fan of the game, it's really cool. And this copy of Hand of Fate, a favorite roguelite of mine with Arkham-style combat and FTL-style navigation, came on a real physical disc with a real physical soundtrack. They don't do that anymore for PC games, along with a real physical manual. God, I miss these things. There's a lot of really good stuff in this one, too. Look at some of this artwork. It's just a really nice little thing to have. And it came with a set of playing cards straight out of the game that goes in this nice little protective cloth pouch, which is a pretty nice collector's item in its own right. All in all, I am very happy with every single indie box that I've gotten so far. You can get special editions like these for everything from Towerfall to the Stanley Parable shipped straight to your door, either sequentially or all in one big order, by heading over to theindiebox.com !AFMC equals 71. That's kind of a mouthful, but hey, I'll get money if you click that link, so I'll put it down in the doobly-doo to make that a little easier for you. Or if you'd rather keep your money and watch something else about Overwatch, then I recommend checking out the video that I did analyzing Lucio and explaining why he's such a great support and probably the strongest support in the entire game. And if you want to catch every single video that I make from here on out, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to make sure that you catch every single one. I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement. And thank you especially to my generous patrons whose names you're seeing on screen right now. This month we cracked the $2,000 mark, which is just crazy to me. With your help, I was able to hire the talented editor Heavy Eyed to get this video out while I work on anime stuff. And thanks to you, I'm going to be taking a trip to Japan in December to check out the Persona 5 Festival and the Big Gundam and a bunch of other rad stuff. And you better believe I'll be filming all of it to show you guys when I get back. Your generosity and support blows me away every time I think about it. Thank you so much.